Democratic Socialists of America on October 8th were marching in New York City as we were still trying to count the dead, international dead. We were finding out that babies, moms, women were being sexually assaulted, which they've only just, it's been what, 2 months now? They just now are starting to talk about the sexual assaults against women that were done by Hamas, and they're just getting to that. They didn't even want to talk about it. It didn't exist until we got our hostages back, and we're hearing from the female hostages over and over again, oh yeah, they sexually abused us. It was part of the torture. They did that to women, and then they would kill them. It was part of what they did on October 7th. You can't hide that, but they tried, and they did. From October 7th until December 5th, they were able to hide from the world and just ignore, oh yeah, the women were being sexually abused by Hamas. But Hamas were, pro-Palestine. Okay, let's get this straight. They're looking at them and they have to prop them up. They're the biggest victim because they have no power. They have no nation. Everyone basically doesn't like them. No one cares about Palestine. Quite honestly, if it wasn't in the news, if it weren't for one of the wars, if you aren't Jewish or Palestinian, you have no idea anything about Palestine. You have no clue. People couldn't find it on a map. They have no clue about this. So they don't care. Nobody in the world cared. But that makes them the ultimate victim. And so they have to support them. And oh my God, and let me give it a great way of understanding. So not only the sexual assault was just obfuscated completely. Look at the articles. After about October 17th, every major international news media organization that is run by individuals who graduated from the top schools in the West, all of these reporters, all of them tied back to these top schools where they've been indoctrinated to support the biggest victim. What do we see? They stopped reporting how many people were dead. Internationally, you couldn't find the number of people who were dead. You couldn't find out how many people were taken hostage in total, or which nations had people taken as hostage. Do you know how many Brits, how many of the people of the United Kingdom were killed, that we believe were killed on October 7th, thereabouts?
No.
Well, if you go by the initial reporting the week of, there was an estimate of somewhere around 17 Britons were killed, with around 7 that were expected to be, that were missing and believed to have been kidnapped, tortured, used as human shields, were hostages. At least 7. These are minimum numbers. That number today has now gone down to what we believe, that there were 12 Britons that were killed and 5 Britons that are hostages at this moment. At this moment, 5 hostages held by Hamas being tortured and abused as we speak. What happened to the others? That difference between the initial report and the current report aren't people that were found. They didn't find the people in between. Those 7, 8 people, they didn't find them. They didn't find them dead or alive. They just stopped counting them. In the United States, we started off with 33 people who were dead and 22 Americans that were captured as hostages being tortured and abused. I keep saying this because the news media won't. Tortured and sexually abused by Hamas. The number then dropped. We stopped talking about how many Americans were killed by Hamas, and we started talking about, well, the Palestinians, they're going through, and we'll get to that part of it, but they stopped talking about how many Americans were killed, and they totally eliminated the number of hostages. And then when they did refer to the hostages about 2.5 weeks ago, that number went from 22 to 13 to 9. In the space of a week, it went from, when they finally started mentioning it, just as the negotiations were beginning for the ceasefire, it went from 13 to 9. Okay. So what happened to those other 11 people? They weren't found as dead. They're not, they're still missing. No one knows. Those people, gone. No one talks about it. It's just a new number. And then they dropped the number from 13 to 9. Oh, where'd those people go? Where happened to those 4 people? They didn't come home. No one found them. They're not dead. Where are they? Oh, they just don't count anymore. We stopped talking about that. And then Joe Biden came out. I think it was the second day of hostages being released. It was a Thursday. And then he spoke to the world and said, well, he's really focused on 3 Americans, not 9, not 13, not 22. He only had 3 Americans that he was concerned about. Why would he pick 3? Because in every case, lower the expectations of the public so that when he got the one little girl, the child, well, hey, he got a child back. He's a hero. He got in the extension of the ceasefire on day 6, as I recall, he got a 16-year-old. So he got 2 of the 3 Americans that he said he was going to get. And headlines were like, Joe Biden got 2 out of 3 Americans back. Well, that he spoke about. They leave out that little ad, that very important addition that he spoke about. And so the mainstream public, who only pay attention to the headline, that 30-second soundbite, Joe Biden got 2 of the 3 Americans he spoke about back home. 2 of 3 have returned to America. Joe Biden's a hero. He's so great. I've got to vote for Joe Biden and Democrats. They're doing a fantastic job. What happened to the 9? What happened to the 13? What happened to the 22? Oh, they just don't count because it's not politically expedient. And by the way, where are the 5 Britons? Yes, I know there's one in Ireland. They got 1 Irish person. How many Irish are there? You know who's the best hero in this entire environment? You know who did the best job? Thailand. If I ever get captured by some terrorist organization overseas, I want the Thai prime minister negotiating for me. Not only did he get 17 Thai nationals back home because he had negotiations without Joe Biden's influence, without NATO's influence, he directly was having a conversation with Iran and Israel. Notice, he wasn't playing games with Hamas. He talked to Iran. He talked to Israel. He got 17 of his people, including the fact that 4 of them we didn't even know were hostages. There were 242. We thought there were 242 hostages. Actually, it turns out 246. There were 4 Thai people we didn't even know were hostages. And he got them back home too. Meanwhile, Joe got 2 Americans with extension by luck, and the British have none. It sounds like I just blew your mind. Everything I just said, internationally verifiable. The Guardian, BBC. You look at any international news media, pay attention to the details. Everything I have just said is absolutely correct. Absolutely verifiable. Every international news media organization.